Welcome to the Throwdown.
All right.
Hell yeah.
We've arrived.
Welcome to the Throwdown. This is your first time here. We take two things, put them into an arena, and we debate which one would come out alive. And this week, cold from our very special council of elders, we have... We've got Sam Fisher from the Clancy Splinter Cell universe versus James Bond. It says in parentheses, classic, ? Their word, not mine. I don't know what that means, but apparently, what do you mean, like Sean Connery? Is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah,
like I think we're talking like not Daniel Craig, not like,
Sure.
Again, like parkour.
Yeah,
actual
Daniel
badass,
Craig might be a little too close to what Fisher
Gotcha.
was, I guess, but it kind of doesn't matter which Bond you pull. They all have. Bond is one character.
Yes.
But we'll stay Brosnan and earlier. We won't include Craig. I don't know
Gotcha.
if that's what.
I think that's probably what I'm gathering from this on this website that we're about to go to once again, versusbattles.fandom.com, that will break this down. They have, the Connery's Bond, Moore's Bond, Lazenby's Bond, and Dalton's Bond. So they have it separated by categories. But
I just last year on a show I did, which this is another show that we put on hiatus from time to time, just because with a lot of my friends that live in LA, we work in production, so it's our schedules change all the time. So we'll be like, all right, we're gonna do this season, and then we're gonna come back to it. I did a show called Watch World. The last thing that we watched and discussed, we did all the James Bond movies. So
Ooh.
I definitely have that down. I've played a couple Splinter Cell games, so I have a good idea of what Fisher is capable of.
well, this is perfect.
Yeah, I have a question about this. So is this just a fight to the death style thing, or is this who is better? What are you trying to determine in the arena?
It's a great question. So we used to set these up with some sort of story, like how they would end up in arena, but that kind of, gets convoluted and more of a stretch at times. So what we kind of do is we say that these two characters in this situation, these two guys meet into an area, an arena, and they are going to be fighting to the death. And the idea is basically, with all of their skills, with all of their, intellect, their abilities, their gadgets, everything they have at their disposal, who would win? And sometimes we break it down to this is really close, but we think that most of the time, if you were to run a simulation, the majority of the time we think this person would win.
Okay.
So
Another big key too is that I would say the majority of the time, these people don't realize that they're going to be battling. So it's not like they've had a week to prepare strategy or
lay traps.
We've had Batman battle before, and it's like, well, if Batman was ready, he's got a contingency plan for everything. So these people are just kind of thrust into this. Maybe they round a corner and they each bump into each other and they take it as a personal insult, and then they fight each other to the death.
Yeah.
Okay.
As one does.
So
that's a very different. It depends, And so having it just, you're like, all right, we're giving both of these guys peak performance is conceptually what we're talking about here.
Yes.
I think then it's easier to say James Bond as a whole. I think it's weird to exclude Daniel Craig because it almost sounds like the question asker then thinks that the Daniel Craig person would win. Otherwise, why would you exclude them? Which then it's like, we're not putting James Bond at his best version, so it's like, should we exclude the best version of Splinter Cell like Sam Fisher? I don't know what the point of that is, that exercise. Maybe if they had specifically been the George Lazenby Bond, I want to know if this Bond could beat him or not. But sure, we won't include Daniel Craig. It doesn't really matter if we don't have him, because it's going to be a very close fight, kind of no matter what happens.
Well, I'd say the elders are here watching right now. So if they want to, in the chat while we go into this debate, if they want to explain what they meant by classic, their word, and it says classic, their word, not mine. So there's always a little bit of drama with the elders, the Council of Elders. They like to infight a little bit, and see, in the chat goes, Noah goes, Seth, you always do this. There was no intent. Include Daniel Craig.
So let's start with old Sam Fisher here, because I know Splinter Cell exists. I know he's a spy and assassin of sorts, but I don't really know what he's good for. That didn't come out. I don't know what he's good for. I don't know.
What are you even good for?
What's he even good for?
So here's the thing about him that's interesting is the biggest difference between the two of them is kind of how they come at what their mission is. Sam Fisher is built around covert ops. Mm-hmm. So he's like a CIA special agent, and that's where he has his training, I believe. It makes you wonder, because the games, it is very important for you to say stealth. I haven't played all of the games, so I think some of them, maybe you can be less stealth than others. But you don't want to be seen, and that actually could cause you to fail. So that one could argue, like, is that points against Sam Fisher? Because if he's not capable of just like walking in the front door like James Bond is, and kind of like throwing a one-liner in and being cocky about like showing up, even though the odds always seem stacked against him, where Sam Fisher has to like crawl through the darkness at night and hopefully not be seen by his enemies for him to accomplish the goal. It makes you wonder like how capable Sam Fisher is, because their training should be similar. Like James Bond is, I can't remember. He's either like he might be a commander, but he is in the military. So he's military trained. He got very high up in the military. And then he went to MI5, and then he became, special secret agent James Bond, whereas Sam Fisher went through the CIA. So he's not SEAL Team 6. He's not like the best kind of like military infiltration that America has, whereas James Bond is peak UK. So you kind of want to figure out who's coming from whose side there. But I kind of want to see, do you have a list of like what kind of kit Sam Fisher has?
Sure.
Because the thing that would really make this lopsided, in my opinion, is what his bulletproof capabilities are of his suit, because I think he probably is able to withstand more shots to his body.
That's interesting.
If I had to guess.
It doesn't. Let's see here, because sometimes it will list what their equipment is. It doesn't list anything specific. It does reinforce what you say, that he's a stealth master. Excluding characters with perfect invisibility or supernatural powers, Sam Fisher is arguably one of the greatest stealth artists in all of fiction. Athletic ability and parkour skills, expert hand-to-hand combat, master marksman, which I think is very good. He's also, as far as like, I think this, oh wait, here we go, weapons and equipment. 5.7 pistol. I think this lists probably all the things that he can potentially use. I'm not going to go through these fucking, the SC-20K, MAWS, SC knife, multivision goggles, Karambit, Panther's Claw combat knife. Jesus Christ. I mean, some people are out there getting just giant hard-ons right now hearing all this sort of stuff.
Stun gun.
Sticky EMP.
He has a Kevlar woven into his suit.
Okay. That's also...
His suit's made of Gore-Tex, Kevlar, and some kind of additional shielding. So he does...
That is pretty important.
More... Yeah, protection. Now, I believe, and I'm looking it up, but I believe James Bond has had body armor within or under his suits. But it's usually like he'll wear it, like you'll see it. Mm-hmm. So like, it's like his jacket looks bulky, and then like he'll open it after he got shot, and it's like, oh, there's like, he has the Kevlar vest on. But he's not necessarily going to have it. But this being the arena, I'm assuming he should have that, right? Like he should have his best gear.
I would think that these two probably entered into this area, right, whatever it is, and they are prepared for combat. They don't know what they're going to be doing. So yeah, I'd say they have all their best stuff on. It would make sense that Sam Fisher would be equipping what he would normally go on with a mission, so he would have his armor. I would imagine James Bond would have some sort of protection, because he's not going in to charm the pants off people, literally or otherwise. He's going into, to combat, more or less. So... this is honestly a really good matchup. I think just intelligence wise, this site lists James Bond is gifted.
He's very smart, depending on his depiction.
Yes.
Roger Moore is my favorite depiction of his espionage skills and his smarts, because he does the most like pretending to be someone who's like a scientist, and he goes to a thing, and he was able to like memorize everything he'd need to know to talk to like one of the top scientists without being, caught out like the other. So like not all the Bonds are quite as smart, but peak Bond as far as intelligence would be like that. Sam Fisher, of course, is going to be smart, but it's like all battle tactics, right?
Exactly. He's a veteran of various military operations and has conducted missions all throughout the world, and has a wealth of experience in all manners of warfare. So, yeah, he's very intuitive to his environment. So I see him as very reactive, but also I don't know. I think between he and Bond, it's kind of almost a wash in that regard, right? Because they've both seen some shit.
Right. So this is where right now my first instinct is, because the arena should remove all variables, right? Like, and I feel like environmental variables are the thing that would give Sam Fisher the edge to win.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's like, if he was like, I can knock the lights out and then like I can sneak up behind you because I have the night vision goggles. Like Bond has stuff like that too, but he has like, you know, to pull from his gadgets when he needs them, and it's always kind of like spur of the moment where Sam Fisher could plan around that kind of thing, and that would benefit him. But if it's like you're in a cage match, you guys can't like it's like a force field, right? Like it's just like, because they can't interact with the environment to like gain an advantage. Then I feel like one of two things would happen. Bond is either going to win in the first 30 seconds, or he's going to lose. Is what I think.
Interesting.
Because Sam Fisher is just going to he has more body armor. He's more of a killer than Bond is. And he's going to have bigger, stronger guns than James Bond is going to have. But James Bond has the element of surprise of insane gadgets that don't appear to be weapons. And he basically, I think, has about 30 seconds to pick one of those gadgets and just wipe out Sam Fisher before Sam even understands what was happening. That's sort of the way I see this going.
And we hope that he has a gadget that is capable of doing that, because a lot of it, sometimes he's equipped with gadgets that are more recon oriented instead of actual defensive.
Yes.
So if he's got his little, nuke ring where he can just fire a tiny little nuclear missile out of his ring, then he's going to win.
If he's got his Polaroid camera and he goes to take a picture, but it also shoots a laser at him and he's dead, Sam Fisher is going to be like, oh, do you want this to send to your family so they can see the face of your murderer? And then Sam Fisher's on the floor. Like, if they're fighting, in Uncle Doug's basement, Sam Fisher's going to win. For sure.
That's part of the game. If you take the wrong turn, you find Sam Fisher in Uncle Doug's puzzle basement. Because he's just waiting on the ceiling.
He's just fucking a fleshlight.
That's his R&R. That's his time off from between missions. He goes to Uncle Doug's puzzle basement.
I
Justin.
think that, I think that while Bond's skill set is much broader, and if the two of them were to go on an espionage mission, I would give it to Bond. If they were going head to head on an espionage mission, Bond hands down without a shadow of a doubt. I just feel like, because Bond's skill set is so broad, I feel like Fisher's skill set is a little bit more narrow. Fisher goes in with the intent to take out, right? More or less.
But here's the thing you have to remember. The 00 agents are literally given a license to kill because they are so good at it. They're the only ones, like, he can kill pretty much anyone, and the state government's going to okay it.
Back him up.
Sort of how that goes. And like when you watch like Bond, anytime they have like training things, anytime he's like even like slightly missing the target, it's like, oh my God, can you believe he didn't hit a bullseye like 10 out of 10 times? Like he is meant to be like the perfect killing machine in a way. It's just that's meant to be sort of like the last case scenario for Bond. He's supposed to be able to solve problems without doing it.
Charm
James Bond James Bond is known for not doing that. That's why like he's always getting in trouble with them. We're not watching the other agents because they're not fun. Because they're doing boring espionage. And they were like, well, Bond, this one's going to get messy, so you're going.
Right.
Yeah.
When you put a killing machine in a tuxedo, I think that's what it strips the visually. I'm just like, he's a little bit more of a, a high class,
And that's why Bond has 30 seconds. Because Sam Fisher's going to look at him. He's like, I've killed a million dudes in suits, like whatever. Like, and he's like, which one of these guns do I want to use? And while he's taking that moment, that is Bond's chance to attack. But after that, like, even if Bond has a Kevlar suit, he doesn't have like a full body suit. He doesn't have the same range of weapons. And although Bond has great athleticism, it's not going to be quite as, because Sam Fisher does much more parkour and stuff. It's like, yes, Craig can do that stuff. but Sam Fisher's going to win on pure strength. But Bond has like the element of surprise.
That's interesting.
That's where he could win.
That is interesting.
I like that. Even in with no environment and these guys are sent to fight, he's still given the advantage of the element of surprise because that's who he is.
I mean, that's why his movies are always compelling, right? Because he goes up often against these guys who are stronger than him, but he tends to beat them. He finds a way to win, but that's usually using like the environment or like tricks or things like that. Which is why in this moment, his one trick he has is Sam Fisher, and then he's gonna be like, "What? You want me to kill? Like, what is this? Just like some millionaire guy from England? Like, what is it? What is this, the royal?
Yeah.
Like, okay, sure, why not? Like, which gun? Because he's got a lot of guns. Got a lot of goggles. He's gonna be like, what do I want to look at this in X-ray so I can watch his
my lens?
Yeah.
Do you think? Let me ask you. Or sorry, Doug.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, do you think that Bond would? Because in a lot of we don't often see when Bond is going up against someone that is formidable, we don't often see him take them out in under 30 seconds. Usually there is maybe a 2-minute fight that ensues or a little bit of a struggle, right? So do you think in like a henchman, Bond takes them out, no problem. But so I would put him up, I would put Fisher up in the formidable foe category. And because we really haven't seen Bond take out a ton of people in under 30 seconds that aren't nameless henchmen, I feel like that might give it back to Fisher a little bit.
Well, keep in mind, often Bond is usually up against like significantly more people than himself. Okay. So he usually can't fight that guy until he takes out his like 30 like dudes that he brought with him first. Is like, and Sam Fisher has the same problem, which is why Sam Fisher's like, well, I'm going to go about it differently, and I'm going to sneak in and take out all those guys one by one and get the element of surprise on the guy that I'm going after. So whereas James Bond's like, I'm going to kick the door in and just fight everybody until I get up to them. But I think the other thing to keep in mind is I'm only really think Bond can win at the beginning because of his gadgets, because he does have gadgets that are capable of killing.
Right.
They're almost never used for that in the movies because they're used in creative ways. It's actually like sort of like a red herring. They give you this gadget and you're like, oh, there's so many cool things you can do with that. But then they make him, because they're often one-time use, he has to use it to get out of this scenario that like it's a clever way of using that device that you wouldn't have thought about. Like you'd think the laser watch is going to be used to murder someone, right? Like why not? But instead I'm going to have to cut through this steel floor so I can get out of this train before it explodes.
Right.
Like so that's, if he has those gadgets, that's why he can win, like at the start of the fight. But I really don't think he has a chance outside of that, because even like all of his evasion gadgets are going to be rendered useless by Sam Fisher's goggles. So if Sam Fisher can survive the first 30 seconds of that fight, I don't think James Bond can win it, is where I think it ends up in.
What I'm hearing is there's a lot of contingencies here for Bond to win. So to me, that's like there's a lot of, well, if this and if this and if this, then he could win.
Well, no, like I think the first 30 seconds of the fight is the only place Bond can win.
Yeah.
But I also think it's stacked in his favor early in the fight.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. Because then it's just a gunfight. Neither of these guys have abilities, right? Neither of these guys have superpowers, and one has body armor all over and the other doesn't.
Yeah.
So it's just like the element of surprise will dictate a James Bond win, and otherwise Sam Fisher's going to win by just purely they're both just made of meat.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Sam Fisher on this one, just because of his wealth of experience. It seems like I said, Bond would have to pull off that perfect, first 30 seconds with the right weapons.
Well, he has a lot of tools, but there's only one scenario where Bond wins.
Exactly. So like he cannot mess up at all. So I think in this situation, if you were to run the scenario 100 times, I think Sam Fisher's going to come out on top on the majority of those.
Yeah, it's entirely possible.
Yeah. I think I'm going to give it to Sam Fisher. So we're going to go Sam Fisher for the win!
That was amazing, Christian. Yeah. Thank you. Like you were the perfect.
One of the most like intellectually well debated throwdowns we've ever had.
And not that, I was like, Christian, tell me more. Break this down more, because you have a good grasp on this. It was really well done, man.